The most recent episode of Helluva Boss has left Stolitz fans in a bit of turmoil. On one hand, Stolitz and Blitz are finally kinda together after years of us watching them pine for one another, but on the other hand, Stolitz has now lost everything else in his life, including his own daughter, Octavia. So what exactly does this mean for the future of Stolitz as a couple? That, my friends, is what we're here to discuss today. Warning! This video contains opinions that may or may not align with your own. Please be kind to everyone in the comments when discussing. Also, beware of spoilers for Helluva Boss. So what exactly happened in Mastermind? Well, Stella finally let it slip to Andrealphus that Stolitz was allowing Blitz to use the grimoire, which is of course a big no-no for Goetia. If you're unaware, there is a hierarchy present in Hell with the Ars Goetia just under the 7 deadly sins and imps all the way at the bottom. This makes Blitz and Stolitz being in an intimate relationship rather scandalous. But back to the episode. Andrealphus used this information to devise a plan in an effort to seize Stolitz's assets. He manipulated the situation to seem as though Blitz had forced himself onto Stolitz and taken the book by force, with Stolitz being too weak to defend himself, which is hilariously ridiculous because we all know damn well Stolitz could easily defend himself if necessary. Anyways, the trial proceeds and Blitz is sentenced to death for stealing the grimoire as well as hiring Stryker to assassinate Stolitz in a cover-up attempt, Blitz being framed here to protect Stella throughout this whole situation. The execution ceremony is to be broadcasted for all of Hell to see so that others will remember their place in the hierarchy and stay in line. But Stolitz sees this broadcast and rushes to court to protect Blitz, taking the blame as the mastermind behind everything. Due to his status as a Goetia, he's not sentenced to death, but rather stripped of his powers and assets for the next 100 years. The trial ends with Andrealphus taking ownership of Stolitz's home, duties, and daughters, and Stolitz left with nothing. Blitz then takes him back to his home where he cleans him up and helps him settle in for the evening. This is where the episode ends. Now there's a lot to discuss with this episode, but I'd like to focus on Stolitz and what this means for them going forward. Before we get into that though, let's discuss why the trial was set up the way it was and how it played out. The trial was of course arranged by Andrealphus as part of his plan to seize Stolitz's assets. But why did he then blame Blitz instead of targeting Stolitz directly? Well, I believe I know the reasoning behind this. Unlike Stella, Andrealphus is quite conniving, thus every decision he made here was made with intention. To begin, he framed Blitz as the one who hired Stryker to assassinate Stolitz, deflecting blame from Stella. As we all know, Stella was the one who actually hired Stryker to take out Stolitz, and if not for Andrealphus stepping in and telling her to call the assassination off, Stolitz may very well have been killed. Andrealphus knew that Stolitz dying would mean all of his assets would naturally be inherited by Octavia the following year when she came of age, meaning him and Stella would walk away with absolutely nothing. Instead of allowing this to happen, they needed to create a situation where his assets would instead be given to Andrealphus, at least temporarily. And this is exactly what they accomplished. Stolitz's sentence was that he would be stripped of his status, power, and title for the next 100 years, and Andrealphus will assume these duties since Octavia is not yet of age. Whether this means Andrealphus will assume these duties for the full sentence or just until Octavia takes over, we don't really know, but I'm assuming it's the latter. So why exactly could he not target Stolitz directly then? I believe this is because of Octavia. Octavia is shown to care for her father deeply despite having problems with him. Yes, she does keep him at arm's length and pushes him away at times, but this is due to her struggles with her unhealthy home environment, the messy divorce, and honestly, just being a teenager. Let's all remember that Octavia is 17, and so she's going through all these typical emotions that come with being a teen, leaving her in a rather vulnerable state. If Andrealphus and Stella had targeted Stolitz directly, Octavia may have held this against them, making it more difficult to work with her regarding Stolitz's assets once she comes of age. Andrealphus knew that this trial would go one of two ways. Either Blitz would be executed and Stolitz would be punished later in another trial or in private, or that Stolitz would intervene, sealing his own fate in front of everyone. By allowing Stolitz's punishment to be brought on by his own decision to defend Blitz, he is now painted as the bad guy in Octavia's mind, the father who abandoned her, choosing his lover over his own daughter. So what does Andrealphus do now? In theory, Stolitz's belongings will be passed on to Octavia within the next year. I believe his best course of action is to kill Stolitz while he is in this weakened state to prevent him from regaining control in 100 years, and have Octavia killed as well, preventing her from ever inheriting anything, thus maintaining his new position within the Ars Goetia. Andrealphus also finds himself in a position to groom Octavia into taking his side within this conflict. Him and Stella are her only family at this point, so it would be much easier with Stolitz out of the picture now to manipulate her and turn her against her own father. Now that we understand how and why everything was set up the way it was, let's discuss the implications here and what the future holds for our dear Stolitz. To start, Blitz has finally come to terms with his feelings for Stolitz, openly admitting them to himself during a soliloquy with Stolitz during the trial. I'd like to take a moment to thank @RazAppleMagic on Twitter who created a wonderful thread explaining what a soliloquy is and the meaning behind it. So, a soliloquy is a storytelling tool in which a character is speaking directly to the audience, not the others around them. This means that in that moment where Stolitz and Blitz were among the stars, they're singing directly to us, not one another. This was indicated to us by both the musical and visual shift in the scene, with Blitz and Stolitz now finding themselves in Stolitz's mind palace. Now, this proclamation that only death could rend their love apart represents the two of them syncing up emotionally for the first time. Did they hear each other though? No. As sad as it is, Vivzie has pretty much confirmed this was a soliloquy, meaning they couldn't have heard one another confessing. Here's the thing though. Blitz knows Stolitz loves him, and his love for him has been solidified through his choice to sacrifice himself today. Stolitz, on the other hand, has not yet had that reassurance from Blitz, meaning at this point he does not know Blitz reciprocates those romantic feelings. This could possibly lead to Stolitz feeling as though Blitz has only taken him in out of pity or a feeling of being indebted due to Stolitz saving his life, not truly perceiving his feelings as genuine. Now, Stolitz has always been very open with his affection for Blitz, but because of his trauma and problems with relationships in the past, Blitz was constantly pushing him away, partially due to feeling unworthy. This was only further exacerbated by their difference in status in Hell, with Blitz being so far beneath Stolitz. Now that Blitz has finally accepted Stolitz's feelings as genuine though, I think it's clear we're going to see a shift in their dynamic going forward, with Blitz being much more openly affectionate and loving towards Stolitz. This can even be seen following the trial as Blitz takes Stolitz home, bathing him and comforting him, and eventually helping him get situated at his apartment. The way Blitz softly washes him clean and soothes him is very telling as to how Blitz can be when he's in the right headspace. In a way, Blitz and Stolitz's roles have been reversed, with Blitz now being revered by his fellow imps as the first to ever escape execution after being sentenced, as well as him recently realizing the people he cares about so dearly do reciprocate his love for them. We had Millie and him bonding recently in the previous episode Ghost Fuckers, and now Stolitz solidifying his feelings for him in Blitz's mind. Stolitz, however, has lost everything: his home, his powers, his own daughter, leaving him with nothing but Blitz by his side. Blitz now finds himself at the end of an arc, going from rock bottom after the fire to being the most revered imp in Hell, whereas Stolitz is where Blitz started. I feel that we may see a shift in their dynamic, with Stolitz struggling to come to terms with his newfound situation, specifically with the loss of Octavia, as I assume Andrealphus and Stella will prevent him from seeing her. He also now finds himself widely hated and in a defenseless state. He is just as vulnerable as anybody else now, possibly even to normal weapons and not just angelic weapons at this point. So he will be forced to rely upon Blitz for protection and security during this time. So what happens next then? Well, we have one more episode of Season 2, Sin Miss, before we enter the dreaded hiatus leading up to Season 3, and I feel that it will most likely focus on Stolitz, possibly in an attempt to reach out to Octavia to explain himself, or even take her away from her mother for her own sake. As Stolitz wakes up in Blitz's home, he may come to understand what he has done as the realization sinks in, causing him to seek his daughter at his former home. From what we can gather from this trailer, Andrealphus has already made it his own in just one night, and will not allow Stolitz in, attacking him as he knows there's not much he can do in his current state. This will lead to Blitz protecting him as we see in this shot. Quick little side tangent, this screen cap from the trailer has been keeping me going for the last several months. Every time I was doubting Stolitz, I'd pull it up and remind myself, there is still hope. So I am just teeming with excitement knowing it's in the next episode. Okay, back to the topic at hand. I believe we're going to watch Stolitz as he attempts to reconnect with Octavia, ultimately failing and instead having to accept his situation and make do with it. I believe he'll begin to work under Blitz, assuming a clerical role within the company, most likely managing the clients, helping Luna around the office. This could also lead to him and Luna bonding, furthering his relationship with Blitz in turn. This was hinted at in the Season 2 premiere, The Circus, with Blitz telling Stolitz that he'd hire him when they were older. Now, they didn't end up in the circus, but with the way IMP operates, it's close enough. What does this mean for them in the long run, though? I feel that Stolitz has two paths he can take right now. He can either accept his circumstances and work to build a life alongside Blitz, finding comfort in his newfound family, and hopefully reconnecting with Octavia, or he can seek out a way to restore his powers. Now, I feel the best course of action to take if this is the path he chooses would be to seek out Visago, who was the most supportive of him throughout the trial. He seems to have a distaste for the unfairness of the whole situation, vouching for Stolitz multiple times and requesting his presence in the trial despite this request being ignored. Stolitz may be able to seek Visago out and get his help in clearing his name, possibly regaining control of the estate. In terms of the future of the relationship, I think Stolitz is finally solid for the rest of the show. I think with a bit of communication they can finally have a proper relationship. Vivziepop having them break up or go their separate ways would be a disservice to the masterpiece that was this episode, so I truly cannot see it happening. We have to eventually let characters grow and develop, or these kinds of powerful moments will feel underwhelming when looking back. Helluva Boss is currently slated to have 50 episodes according to an interview Vivzi did with Joe Vulpes, so we can expect another 30 episodes following Sinmas. This gives us plenty of time to flesh out Stolitz's relationship as well as both of their individual arcs throughout the rest of the show, with Stolitz possibly playing a major role in Season 3 as he adapts to this new situation he finds himself in. Personally, I feel that Season 3 will definitely focus on him much more than previous seasons, as he is now part of the core ensemble. Overall, this episode was magnificent, and I'm honestly so tempted to dive even deeper into Andrealphus and Stella's motivations, and whatever they may be planning going forward. But for now, I just wanted to focus on Stolitz because my heart hurts for them. I'm so looking forward to seeing what Vivzi has in store for us, but for now, I'm just going to have to survive off of AO3. I hope y'all enjoyed this video. I'd love to hear your thoughts and if you agreed or disagreed with anything I said, so please feel free to leave a comment. Anyways, thank you all for watching. I hope you all have a wonderful day or night, and if you're watching this just before bed, sleep tight. Bye!